Here we go. Map number 2, July 1st, 1863, the first day of the battle. When we left off, John Buford, the Union cavalry officer, who is out ahead of the main body of the Union Army, realizes he's bumping into infantry troops, which is unusual. So what he knows he has to do is he has to prevent the Confederate infantry, the Southern infantry, from digging in on Cemetery and Culp's Hill. So he's going to place his 2,500 cavalry troops, not heavily armed troops, up in front of Harry Heath's infantry, and he knows that Heath is part of Hill's corps, A.P. Hill, so there's going to be a lot of men coming up behind him. He knows that Richard Ewell is up to the north, and there's going to be thousands and thousands of men coming down with Richard Ewell. Buford's hope is that he can hold on to where he is long enough for John Reynolds and the Union infantry to get there in time the next morning, the morning of July 1st, 1863, to prevent the Confederates from getting dug in on Cemetery and Culp's Hill. Fortunately, Buford was able to hold on to his position in time for Reynolds to get there. John Reynolds and the 1st Corps arrive. Reynolds puts them in place. He takes Buford's 2 brigades. His 1 brigade is on the left Union flank to the southwest of town. His other brigade gets placed, what's left of them, to the Union right, and that's on the northeast side of town. Next, the Union 11th Corps, led by a guy named O.O. Howard. I know what I'm saying. His initials were O.O. And he gets put up to the north of the town of Gettysburg. And there they fight, and it's some pretty fierce fighting that first day. The Confederates continue to push the Union troops on 3 sides, and ultimately, especially after John Reynolds is killed, the Union cannot hold on any longer. They break and they retreat through the town of Gettysburg. So the first day's battle actually goes through downtown Gettysburg. And the Union troops retreat back to the high ground. They get on Cemetery and Culp's Hill, and they are able to dig in and strengthen their position there. So let's take some notes over the first day's battle. So you need to draw and label the estimated positions of the following. For the Union, Buford, remember his men have been put into 2 different positions on the left and the right flank of the Union Army. You need to label John Reynolds and Doubleday, who took over after Reynolds was killed. Reynolds was killed within about 10 minutes of being on the battlefield. And Howard. For the Confederates, for the South, you need to label Richard Ewell. He's a corps commander, and under him is a guy named Jubal Early. A.P. Hill, and 2 of his division commanders are Dorsey Pender and Harry Heath. Make sure you put them in there. And Rhodes. Pause the video if you need to so you can see the map. Okay, so now what we're doing is make sure we label our legend, blue for Union, red for Confederate, and we're going to take some quick notes. Buford and his 2,500 men put up a good fight against Harry Heath's division of about 10,000, but they're nearly wrecked by the time John Reynolds arrives in the nick of time. Reynolds places the Union 1st and 11th Corps into position and is almost immediately shot and killed. He's shot in the back of the head, dies instantly. This is a huge loss for the Union Army. The Confederates outnumber the Union troops and ultimately force them to retreat south of town, pushing them through the town of Gettysburg. Lee then orders General Ewell to push the Union troops off Cemetery and Culp's Hill, but Ewell freezes. He's not able to make the order. We'll talk about that in class, why he did that. And the Union troops are able to dig in and are able to fortify their position, and they hold on to that position for the remainder of the battle, for the next 2 days.